Hi, I decided to record my GoFundMe for those that have difficulty reading long passages like me. So, yeah, let's get started. Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, faithful in prayer. Romans 12:12. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Each day has enough trouble of its own. Matthew 6:34. My name is Linda Milam Brown Benedetto, and I am 62 years old. Very few people know much about me and how quickly I become overwhelmed just doing daily tasks. I'm neurodivergent, which means my brain processes information in a way that is not typical of most individuals, and it's possible that this aspect of my identity played a role in the abuse I've experienced. Whether it's from being on the autism spectrum or trauma, I persistently face struggles with an anxiety disorder, ADHD, and PTSD. I want to be clear from the start. I'm not here to blame my past for my current financial struggles. Instead, I want to emphasize the toll that a lifetime of challenges has taken on my mental health. The truth is, I've endured more than most could imagine, and right now I'm at a breaking point. My mental state is at its lowest and making it impossible for me to navigate these financial hardships alone. I don't wish to deflect responsibility for my financial situation. However, I recognize the reality of my situation and I'm reaching out for the support I desperately need. I'm really hurting mentally, physically, emotionally, and financially, and it's always difficult for me to ask for help. But I am humbly asking family, friends, acquaintances, and strangers to show compassion by helping me relieve some of my financial burden. I'm in a state of desperation somewhere between suffocating and drowning. I've accumulated credit card and loan debt due to medical and dental costs, along with charged living expenses, including food, water, electric, and insurance. Now on a fixed income, every day feels like an uphill battle, and I find myself in a place where I need support. The debt continues to grow, accumulating interest and making it increasingly difficult to pay. If I can get help catching up financially, I'll then be able to meet basic monthly obligations. I share my story with the hope that your compassion may become a lifeline during this especially dark chapter in my life. I pray to God every day. I am always reminded of Bible verse Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. I've always had hope. Through the years, my faith has been tested. The hardships I've suffered in my life have not been easy, but I have persevered through them, starting at an early age. Most of the most beautiful moments in my life have been marred, but my hope, fueled by my faith, has always allowed me to survive. Through every storm, a smile carried hope through the years. Recent months have been particularly trying in all aspects of my life. It is torture fighting the thoughts in my head, and I want to be able to continue to win this battle. I have trouble expressing myself briefly because every time I think of one setback that led me to where I am, it reminds me of other obstacles over the last 6 decades that still have an impact on my current situation. Over the last decade, it has been increasingly difficult for me to leave my home. This financial debt I am facing now has made it difficult to consistently pay for the medicine I need to calm the anxiety and think rationally. If I can help, if I can find help to get through this financial hurdle, I'll be able to keep healing and improving mentally, physically, and emotionally. Without going into detail, as a child I suffered through 14 years of physical abuse, incest, molestation, and rape by multiple adults. I was forced to suffer through unimaginable cruelty and perversion on a weekly basis. My first memory was when I was only 4 years old. These unspeakable atrocities scarred my soul, and their weight alone would have been unbearable for most. In addition, I was hit by a car when I was 5, and I was involved in 2 other motor vehicle accidents that are still questionable. The shock of lightning coming through the phone at 13, projecting me across the hall, added to the traumatic events in my life. I ran away and attempted to report the abuse when I was 16, but was located, beaten up, and brought back home. At 18, desperate to escape the abuse, I volunteered to drive a stranger 1,500 miles south. It was God's plan that my car broke down after 1,000 miles and the stranger continued on their way. It was my predicament. In my predicament, I was forced to call home. After being scolded for being irresponsible, I learned I was just 5 miles away from the house of an aunt, the same aunt who was with me when I was hit by a car. I'm thankful my aunt took me in for a couple months. I hoped that would be the end of the trauma in my life, but it wasn't. Periodically and throughout my life, I've suffered with suicidal tendencies and attempts often with no outwardly trigger. My first attempt was at school when I was 16 years old, and it was never talked about. Over the next 30 years, I attempted suicide 4 more times. Although I haven't been able to eliminate intrusive thoughts, I have learned how to recognize them and try to take steps to avoid further attempts despite the added anxiety. I believe it is difficult to understand just how much I have accomplished and why I struggle without understanding the severity of the challenges I have faced. My first marriage understandably only lasted 3 years. In my nearly 30-year second marriage with a significant age gap, navigating mental health challenges was tough. Of course, every marriage has its difficulties, but ours faced additional challenges due to his age and to the nature of his work, which kept him at home for only short periods. Despite these issues, I did my best to work and raise 3 boys, and since his passing, I reflect on the journey we shared and realizing how truly strong I was. Sorry. My 3 children all suffered with a variety of medical conditions and mental health challenges. I did the best I could, but oftentimes my anxiety and frustration presented itself as aggression or anger, and I would unknowingly put my oldest son in harm's way when I asked my mother for help. At that time, I still didn't understand my own trauma, and I was still trusting. Although my father was sent to jail as a result of the crimes against my son, justice wasn't served, and we were forbidden to bring up my abuse. Life continued. As soon as one crisis was averted and another arose, in 2011, I was finally at a place where I was able to take control of all aspects of my life. Within a year, tragedy struck. I lost my 22-year-old son, Travis, who had a seizure while driving. Sorry. All of these experiences, among many more I haven't detailed, have deeply impacted my life and my ability to go out into the world. In addition, it has created a lot of blank spots in my memory. There's a lot of stuff I can't remember, and the memories can't be retrieved. Things I seem to remember are tied to negative memories, which I am trying to replace with more positive thoughts. It's crucial to acknowledge that severe trauma can have a lasting impact even if you've been able to manage it for years. I've continuously pressed forward showing strength and resilience even in the toughest moments. However, I've reached a breaking point where I feel utterly drained and exhausted. And overall, I am mostly healthy, but physical pain has always been a part of my life. In my 30s, I had 5 eye surgeries with short-lived results. For the last 6 years, I've suffered from new daily persistent headaches. It is literally a constant 24/7 headache, along with facial pain. After many doctor visits and failed attempts to alleviate the pain, I gave up. This past year, I could no longer use my right arm and shoulder without severe pain. As my arm was healing, I unexpectedly started bleeding in another area of my body, I should add. My anxiety kept me from immediately reaching out for medical help. Within a week, I found myself in the emergency room. After many tests, a few follow-ups at a specialist, and a biopsy, I had to have surgery. About the same time, I was also having dental trouble. A crown broke, and the permanent bridge I had in my mouth for the last 39 years had to be removed and replaced with denture. A week after my surgery, I had 8 teeth extracted and a denture in place. Other than some much appreciated long distance support, again I faced serious situations alone. This is only a small snapshot of some of the more major things I've endured. Sorry. I'm reaching out with the goal of raising $20,000 to cover immediate expenses and eliminate the overwhelming debt that threatens my home and my well-being. Your contribution, whether big, small, or somewhere in between, is key to unlocking my future. Your generosity will make a meaningful difference in my life. It will help sustain me while I struggle through this storm and help me hang on to hope. Although anxiety has kept me captive in my home for several years, I've been working through my mental health issues with therapy. In addition, I've turned over all my problems to God. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Doctors are tending to my physical health and I'm recuperating well. Thank you for reading this portion of my story and considering a financial donation. I understand I'm asking for a lot of money, and many in the world are facing similar or worse hardships. I'm grateful for any help you're able to offer. Please pray for me, and if you find this on your heart, share this GoFundMe link with your friends and family. I've tried to express my thoughts through poetry. You can find my books on any Amazon site just by searching my name, and then there's links in this. And then there's the pictures. Secretly Screaming Child Sexual Abuse, a Poetic Journey. Private Pain, Mental Illness, a Poetic Journey. Love and Heartache, a Poetic Journey. I really am in a crisis. Thank you.